Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Happy New Year. It is the first Resilient Retail Game Plan of 2022, episode number 75, and I'm your host, Catherine Eardley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership for product businesses. You can find out more at resilientretailclub.com, and if you use the code 10podcasts, that's 10podcast, you can get £10 off your first month. We thought we'd kick off the year with a bang. I am here talking with Jessica Rose in today's episode. Jessica is the founder of the Jewellers Academy, which is a community, an online community of education, support, business advice for anybody who wants to start or improve their jewellery business. She teaches a whole variety of skills as well as helping people get ready to really grow their jewellery business. And Jessica and I have spoken before. I've been on Jessica's podcast and I've also given a talk to her members. So what I wanted to do today was really get together and have a discussion with Jessica all about community. We both have communities, we both have membership groups, and it was a great opportunity to just dig into why community is so exciting, why it's so important for small businesses, and touch on specifically for product businesses how they can go about creating a community around their own brand and why it's important to do so. Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today.
Lovely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Do you want to just start us off by introducing yourself and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So my name's Jessica Rose and I'm the founder of Jewellers Academy. So we train jewellers in how to become jewellers or people who aren't jewellers in how to make jewellery. So we have lots of online courses. We're a totally online business in that sense. And we have a community around us. So people share what they're making. And lots of these jewellers are obviously have their own businesses. So we also give business support, training, advice on how to run successful, profitable jewelry businesses. So yeah, anyone who makes jewelry, we kind of just try and be the full package, the making training and the business training.
Yeah, absolutely. And such great support. And I always love it when I see you on your social media. You do such a great job of shouting people out and sharing people's projects. And it's amazing.
Thank you. Yes. Well, we're so lucky because everyone's making all this amazing stuff and we see it all the time. So we're like, oh, quick, share it. So luckily our students create loads of content for us, which is really nice.
So how long has the Jewellers Academy been going?
So it's a good question. I was trying to work this out, actually. I think we started about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
But it was, I had another business before, which was very, very closely related, which was called London Jewellery School. So I was born in London and it's exactly what it sounds like. It was a physical premises, a jewellery school where people came and trained.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So I had that for about 13, 14 years.
Wow.
And that closed down in COVID, but we'd already started Jewellers Academy, which was essentially the online version of London Jewellery School. So teaching online, offering those same sort of classes. So I kind of feel like I've been doing it for 15 years, but officially Jewellers Academy has been going for probably about 4 years, I'd say, I guess.
Oh, wow. So I suppose it's just really fortunate timing that you'd already started sowing the seeds of Jewellers Academy before COVID.
Definitely. Yeah, we'd been doing it for quite a few years. We had a lot of content ready. So we were just kind of ready to go, which was very lucky because I know loads of people had to pivot, and we did pivot as well, but we pivoted onto like a foot that already had quite a lot going for it. So it was kind of
Right.
a little bit easier to do. And that business massively grew throughout COVID, and the other business went bankrupt because it had to close. So it was kind of, overall, it was, I would say, a positive, but there was a mixture of the two. So yeah, I was grateful.
That must have been so hard as well to work for so long on a physical premises and have to have it closed.
It was a bit like, it was more of an emotional sort of, because like business wise it was fine, like it all kind of worked out, and luckily we had enough savings in the bank, we could refund all of our students, and it didn't actually have to go officially bankrupt. We were like break even, flush with everything.
Right.
But it is hard to let things go, but then it's the natural evolution, and I love what we're doing now, and it's helping so many people, and it's an amazing community. So super grateful.
And I suppose as well, being so fixed to a physical location in London, that's the nice element of the Jewellers Academy being online, is that you can reach out way, way past your geographical reach.
Absolutely. We have students from all over. We have people in the Falkland Islands.
Oh,
we
wow.
have people in Bahrain, in, South Africa, Australia, America, lots of people in the UK, all throughout Europe. So it's wonderful to kind of reach so many people that perhaps couldn't get the kind of training that you can get somewhere, say, in the centre of London.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a nice thing to be able to offer.
And it's such an incredible variety of courses you have. I always see when they pop up, and you have some really advanced techniques now as well. I know you're saying that your jewellers have developed their skills as you've gone along.
Yeah, absolutely. I know they keep us on our toes, so they keep getting better. So we have to keep getting better with the courses. Like when I first started, I was teaching like very beginner, kind of like how to put beads on a string. And I still love teaching beginner classes because they're such fun. But obviously some people have been with us for 10 years, like followed our journey, and they're incredible. And they're like, I want to learn this tech. I want to learn like how to set tiny like gemstones. I want to work with diamonds. I want to do, which is awesome because it means then we kind of create those courses, and they love them and we love them. So it's a lot of fun. There are worse things you can do with your time than work with diamonds and gold and make online courses.
Absolutely. No, I mean, how wonderful. And it's really interesting what you said there about how you started off with the London Jewellery School, but then you actually said that a lot of those people moved with you. So what we said today, we'd be talking about community, because obviously we both run communities, and it's such an important part of both our businesses, but also what that means for the people that we work with. So tell me a little bit about how some of the people have kind of come along with you on the journey. As you said, you've got people who've been in your community for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of it's the branding and kind of like, meeting them in person and them actually knowing who you are and getting to know the tutors and all of that was kind of how it started before we had anything online. And then I started doing YouTube videos probably about 8 years ago.
Right.
And I didn't really have any expectation with them. I was just like, let's put these up. But I did set up a Facebook group, and I linked the YouTube videos to the Facebook group, kind of just thinking, I don't even know what a Facebook group is at this point. Like it was so new, right. Back in the day. And I think I just left it for a year or two, and I came back and there were like thousands of people in this Facebook group from this YouTube. And I was like, talking to like someone in my team at the time. And I was like, maybe we should be talking to these people. Like they seem to be interested in making jewelry. And it's so funny when you start new marketing techniques, isn't it? Because at first you have no idea what you're doing, always. And then you kind of fiddle around. But yeah, so the Facebook group has been really fundamental for our community growth, because anyone who's interested in making jewelry can like pretty much joins. Then we can share like videos of things we're doing, they can share what they're making,
right?
And it kind of was quite organic in that way. And I think a lot of people were like, oh, I've been to your classes and I've seen your YouTube and now I'm in your Facebook group. So it's offering these spaces where people can feel like connected to what you're doing. Is how we started with it anyway.
That's such a great story. So you set this group up and then you sort of went away and came back and it was full of people. Were those people in the meantime talking to each other, even though you weren't necessarily in the group that much?
Yeah, I think they were. It was a time when Facebook groups were much quieter anyway because they were
Right.
brand new. But I
Yeah.
think they were. They'd be like, "Oh, I've taken this class. Does anyone know what type of wire was used, like what the thickness was?" And then someone else would be like, "Oh, I use this thickness." And
Yeah.
so they had started. I mean, now obviously we're very active in our Facebook groups and we encourage and being active makes such a big difference. So I
Yeah.
think we were lucky they started talking because it's easy to start a Facebook group and no one talks to each other. But yeah, it was just fun to see like these numbers. And we were like, oh, we should definitely engage with
Do
these
something
people.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's so interesting though, because you really touched on an important element there, even just something as basic as saying to somebody, I took a course, do you know what thickness of wire? And somebody else tells you, oh, I used this and it worked well. I think that it almost sums up how important it is to get the right information at the right time that sometimes only a like-minded community can bring you. So I think about the example in my group. So I have a free Facebook group, Female Founders in Retail, and I have the paid membership Resilient Retail Club. They're both Facebook groups. The free group's much bigger than the membership group. But it just always makes me think of the times that people will say things like, I need to get business insurance for products that are coming from China and no one will cover me. Who does everyone else use? Or what label printer do you use? And
Yeah.
it's sort of small things that you almost, would you say you need people who are going through the same thing?
Absolutely. And it takes the pressure off you as the business owner to be responding all the time. Like it's great when you look inside your Facebook group and someone's asked a question, you know the answer, but 5 people have already answered. You're like, oh, I could just like that. That takes me just a second. So, and you also learn from your community so much because like we know as kind of educators, teachers, like facilitators that we offer our experience, but what's so valuable is like the peer learning that you can get from these groups. And I think it's also not just learning, but the empathy. So a lot of what people share is not even a question necessarily, but just, oh, I had a really stressful experience. Someone left a bad review on my Etsy shop or something. And then 5 people are like, we've all been there. Don't worry, you're awesome. And then, and immediately you feel kind of relief and you feel better. And it's something that perhaps, people in your everyday life might not understand in the same way.
Yeah.
So having those connections with people who just get what you're going through is just so invaluable.
And do you think it's particularly useful when people are working alone?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I was actually speaking to my friend the other day and she was saying, you work alone, you live at home, I live on my own with my son. And she was like, you get lonely. And I was like, I'm constantly talking to people. Like with my job, I do not feel like I'm on my own. Every day I talk to people in the community, like probably at least 20, 30 people I'll have some sort of interaction with every day. So it really, for me, it doesn't feel at all like I'm on my own. And I think, our community is jewelers and a lot of jewelers do work on their own. A lot of them are introverted personalities. They like to be alone, but at the same time, we all need connection, don't we? And we need that sort of motivation and feeling like we're part of something bigger. So definitely the communities, and people say it all the time. And it's something you can choose when you want it, but you can also come away from it if you do want to date yourself.
That's so true.
Yeah. So that's super valuable.
I think I hear a lot from people that, in particular, when things are tough, people talk to me a lot about almost like a mental spiral that they go into, that sales are tough and therefore they lose confidence. And because they lose confidence, they don't do as much. So then sales drop or this kind of thing. But it's all about almost getting locked inside your own head. And I think what you said about living alone, working alone, or even if you're not living alone, but living with other people who maybe have a job or maybe aren't running a business, who aren't running a business. Sometimes people say to me, oh, actually, it's just really nice to hear I'm not the only person thinking that, because the irony is like everybody's got these thoughts in their head and everyone's having the same thoughts, but no, because you can't hear what's inside other people's heads, you just assume that it's just you, but it's so rarely just you.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all been through it. There's nothing that you can share that everyone will be like, oh, I'd never thought that. We've all thought the crazy thoughts. And I think a nice thing as well about these kind of online communities is even if you're not that active and you're not someone who wants to post all the time, even just reading them.
Yeah.
There's some groups I'm in where I don't post a lot, but I'm more of a lurker.
Yes.
But just reading them, I'm like, oh, it's either like a funny meme or just something that I'm like, these are my people. These people understand me, and you feel sort of validated, don't you?
It's so true. It's so absolutely true. And I think that's sometimes I think the challenge, I don't know if you find this too, as being a community leader, is that there's almost like a silent majority. There's a lot of people who will, as you say, just lurk, but they're getting a huge amount of value from just listening to things or seeing things being discussed. And so it's not like everyone has to join in. It's not like enforced fun, like everyone has to join in. Obviously, it's about creating opportunities for discussion and making people feel that they're very welcome to talk and welcome to open up. But if people just want to come and read, you're right, I've got communities that I'm in where I'm active and I talk to people and I make connections. And I've got communities that I'm in that I just read things, but it's just really, really useful to even come and read a discussion about something that you can't find talked about anywhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you get value kind of either way. And I think another thing we've seen in our community, and I'm sure you've seen it in yours as well, is these kind of unexpected connections that people make. And it's really lovely. And I've done this in real life as well as online, because that's not real, where you don't know that you need something until you meet someone and they offer some sort of service or referral or something, and you think, oh my gosh, that's completely changed the way that my business works. Like in our community, we had a jeweler who was doing really well. She was really growing, but a little bit overwhelmed with the orders and the volume and everything. So I was speaking to her and saying, well, you might need someone to help you with the production, like a bench assistant. And we had another person who at the same sort of time was starting to become a bench assistant, and, just kind of connecting the two. And now they work together and both of their businesses are growing as a result. And neither really knew that they would meet the other, or that they would need the other, or that they could help grow together. But those sort of partnerships and collaborations that you can't even envisage before you're part of something are amazing to see as well.
That is fantastic. It's interesting what you said there about in real life versus online, because this is just a kind of question that goes around my mind, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are as well. Because the very first thing that I did when I started my business, or even before I started my business, was I organized these evening events. At the time, they were called the Future of Retail, because I was just really curious. Worked in the retail industry for so long, and I was kind of curious about where it was going, and I just wanted to meet other people and talk to them. I set up a meetup group, and I just met random people and talked to them, and people from all kinds of backgrounds, and it was really interesting conversations. I didn't really know what I was doing with them, where I was going with it, but I just wanted to have that conversation. And I've been really itching to get back to doing in-person events, and I was all kind of geared up to try and restart them in the spring. But of course, now, we're all kind of on tenterhooks again. But I do think that you can definitely, I've built up relationships with people online who I've never actually met in person. But I do think there's a kind of richness that comes when you can combine the two, and there's something about seeing people in person. And I was just curious, because you've had a similar, well, yours is much more pronounced in a way. You had a physical business for a long time and now an online community. Do you think that it's ideal to be able to interact with people both in real life and online, or do you think you can build up just as strong a community purely online?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question, isn't it? And I think, we all think that the answer is if we met in person, let's
call it person.
In person, that it's a stronger connection. And maybe that's true, but I've actually experienced having just as strong connections that are purely online. Like I've hired people like a whole year and I've never seen them.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to them like, every day or, a couple of times a week. And it was funny. We had like, just before the COVID restrictions started coming in again, we had like a Christmas sort of brunch thing with our staff team. And there was some staff there that was like, I've never met you before. We've worked together for a year. And, so that was really nice. And I think it is lovely to meet people in person. And I think it's important for our sort of mental health that we are meeting people in person, but they don't have to be the same people. I think that as long as you've got contact with humans, whether it's your family or your friends or whatever, you can have really, really valuable, just as valuable business or whatever hobby relationships online that seem to be really good. And I think a good example of that in our businesses that we have these diploma programs where people study for a whole year together. And to see the groups that kind of form, and they have like one-to-one mentoring with their tutor and the relationships that they kind of build. I always thought, oh, maybe this won't be, before we did it, I thought maybe it won't be as valuable as the in-person offering, but actually I think that it is. And that's the kind of feedback that we've got as well. So it is lovely to do things in person. I definitely want to do more of that, like you said, in future. But I don't necessarily know that it's just different. It's not.
It's like, it's another element. It doesn't have to be, it's not the kind of be all or end all.
Definitely not. And I think there's so many advantages to online. Like you said, you can choose when you interact. Sometimes in person, you get annoyed with people after a couple of hours. You're sort of like, or you have needs. You're like, oh, I'm hungry now, or, it's cold or whatever. If you're at home, you've met all your needs. None of those things need to be worried about. And you just focus on the interaction with the person. So it's so
true. I'm just thinking about the fact that I've done so many talks online in the last couple of years. I think I totted up, I've done about 50 talks for various different people, online workshops. I'm sure you've done the same. And of course, for my membership as well. And I had I spoke in person recently. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going back to speaking in person. And then on the day, my mic was just like a real nightmare. I just had a real issue with the mic, and it kept doing that awful high-pitched screechy sound, and it was very echoey, and it was really odd. And I was almost like, wow, just give me a Zoom call.
That's interesting. And like you said, you've done like 50. There's no way you could have done 50 in-person events.
Oh my goodness, no,
so
that's so true.
Yeah, there are some huge advantages, but I think you're right. A hybrid is probably the way it's going to go in the long run. And something else that's been really nice for us to see is that people have been able to engage with us who couldn't have before. Like we have a student who's doing really well at the moment, and she's based in Cornwall, and she's a mum full time. So there's no way she could have come to London to do like a diploma program, but she has done it online in the evenings. And so, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of businesses. We can just reach so many more people and offer so much more.
Widens that accessibility as well.
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'd love to touch a little bit about product businesses, because obviously your audience majority of them are jewelers with businesses, and the majority of people listening to the podcast are product businesses as well. If you're a product business listening to this and you think to yourself, it's great being part of a community, but how do I get myself a community?
Yes.
Have you seen that in particular with your members, people who kind of create a community around them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, interestingly, I think this is heavily underutilized in product businesses. I feel like there's so much potential for growth around having communities around product businesses. And in a way, we get so bogged down in everything else that we have to do that we leave it. But it means it's a huge opportunity for people, because if you are that one product business that is building a community around, then you really stand out. So I think it's such an exciting kind of area for product businesses. I was just having a think about this. There's certain things that people have done in our community, like started Facebook groups where they talk about some sort of niche seems to be the key. So instead of it being about their products, making sure that that community is about something bigger than what you sell. So for example, if you're selling plants. I'm looking at your plants in the background, Catherine. It's thinking like, who is that customer? Who buys that? And what do they care about? They might care about like clean air, and they might care about, they might be vegan. I mean, I'm making assumptions. They might care about, interior design or in the environment or whatever. So picking almost a niche and building a community around that niche, which also includes your business, seems to be the way that it works really well. And I think another example, it's a big example, but I don't know if you remember Innocent Smoothies, which is quite a kind of community product-based business. They had this thing called the Big Knit, where you could knit like little hats to put on top of your Innocent Smoothie.
Yes.
Oh yeah, do you remember those?
I do.
So I think that's a great example of that's building a community around a product brand. And I think there's so much we can learn from that idea of, it's an investment. It's an investment in your time and your energy. It's not a quick win to build a community, as I'm sure people will understand. But if you can kind of have little competitions or even sometimes little giveaways where you set people challenges, people need stuff to do in a community. So we don't just want to say, here's our products, talk, because that feels really forced, but to say, okay, well, I've got this niche, this topic that I care about and that I want to talk about, and you also care about it and want to talk about it, and let's do some fun activities around it. I think that's the way I've seen it sort of work.
Oh, that's so true. I think you really hit the nail on the head there with it works well when it's not literally just like, here's my Facebook group about my jewellery.
3 people join.
Yeah, exactly. But it's more like could be about, mindfulness if you're somebody who makes mindful jewellery, but it would be more about mindful living and if the product kind of fits into that. I was thinking about a paint company that had a group that was all about upcycling. So again, that makes sense, right? Because if you're in your upcycling, you're buying pieces of furniture, well, what do? Well, you paint them. So
that's such a good example. Yeah. How are people using your products? I guess that's the thing to think about. How are they using it? And because you want people to share like pictures in your community, don't you? You want them to share probably pain points as well. Like, oh, I tried to paint this chair, but actually it didn't work out. And then someone else can be like, this is my top painting chair tip. There's lots of content to work around. And doing things like live, in America, I think they call them trunk shows, or selling your stuff live. That can be really, really helpful. And I think going live inside a Facebook group, even though it can be scary and intimidating for people, is a really good way to build community. And I know that I've seen people be set a challenge of going live every week for a number of weeks, like let's say 10 weeks, and talking about something. So if you chose like the vegan houseplant topic, you could say like top 10 tips for vegan house planting. So I'm not quite sure what that topic is, so we'll go with it.
I was going to say, I think most houseplants are vegan, but
I don't know. Those plants could be eating anything.
Not a Venus flytrap, maybe.
Yeah, this is not my own. I should stick to jewelry analogies, I feel like. But hopefully you get the point of it. Kind of being showing your face, being present, and having a sort of topic that is bigger than your product to bring people together.
That's such a good I think as I said, that's such a good way, because I could have described that, but I think you just put it very, very succinctly. It's got to be bigger than just, it doesn't work terribly well if it's just literally about product. I'll tell you the other things that work really well that I've seen are things like recipe and cooking based groups, when the product is to do with cooking or an ingredient, for example, or somebody that I met once who sold a gadget that infused oil with things. So you could put garlic in, for example, and then produce garlic infused oil. So they had a whole group about cooking.
Ooh, nice.
So fashion and styling is another example where people will have a group and they're talking about looking great over 40, or top tips to dress for your body shape, things like that. And again, if the clothes are then able to be purchased, then so much the better. So I suppose it's what it all boils down to for almost anything, isn't it? It's thinking about who your customer is and what else they're interested in, and thinking about what might they want to talk about. So if you're travel brand, it's a tough time to be a travel brand, but if somebody sells things for traveling, then again, a Facebook group, maybe it can be a fantasy travel group.
Where I would go.
Where you would go. Good. Yeah.
I'd join that. See lots of lovely pictures of beaches and all those things. But yeah, absolutely. And obviously we talked a lot about Facebook, but it's not the only platform for building community. And I think something that I've learned, like I just love community, and I'm sure you do, Catherine, as well. And I think anyone who's thinking of doing this as like a marketing strategy, it has to be something you really care about and that you're passionate about, because it's quite an investment of time, energy, but you get so much back from it. But I guess if you were just going to try and add it on as like, I'll try and force myself to talk to people a bit, then it's probably not going to work. But wherever you feel most comfortable online, this is what I always say to our students anyway, that's where the community is going to be best. So if you're always hanging out on Instagram, then you probably want to build that community. And if you want longer conversations on Facebook, then there. But also YouTube is an amazing place to build a community as well. And I'm sure there's loads of other places too, but they're the kind of ones that I've been on and sort of enjoyed building communities. So there's lots of options for platforms.
So wherever it is you're most comfortable, that's where you look to start building.
Definitely, because you want to wake up and think, who can I talk to today on Instagram or on Facebook, or like what questions can I answer? And you want to feel, I think, quite excited about that. That's the ideal. That's how I feel when I go onto our Facebook group. I'm like, what have people made today? What are they sharing? What can I ask them about? Because then you're going to be motivated to, as the leader of that community, engage. Whereas if it is just something on the to-do list that you hate and it's a task and it's not enjoyable for you. And there's so many different ways to market your business. This isn't the only one, but I think for people who enjoy community and building it, it's just an incredible sort of way to grow your business and enjoy your business as well.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think sometimes this podcast will begin. This will be the first podcast of 2022. So exciting. But I think that it's only going to get more important, this idea, because as people are looking to buy from businesses, then I think they want to feel a connection. And I certainly think a community is a great way as well. It almost becomes a bit of a competitive edge, because if you've built a community based on genuine values and interests and it's grown up over time, that's actually quite a hard thing to replicate. Even if somebody walks straight into the same space as you, if you've built your community, and you see people do develop loyalty and you have long-term relationships with them, and you're talking about people that you've known for 10 years now, that doesn't kind of get wiped out overnight, even if somebody else comes in. So I think that it is a really strong tactic, if you like. But I think you're so right, and it is something that you have to like doing. And sometimes I think, are you the kind of person who likes to host the party, or do you like to be the guest? And of course, sometimes we all want to be the guest, but I think building community, for me, I feel like it's about being a good host. It's about making people feel welcome and comfortable and meeting their needs. But I do agree with you. I think if it was not in your nature to do so, and that wasn't the kind of thing that you enjoyed, then it would be a lot. But if you are that kind of person, then go for it. You know, it is very, very rewarding.
Or hire a community manager.
All right, yeah. Or hire someone who loves that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And I like the analogy that you said as well, because I love hosting things. So it kind of feels very natural, and it seems like you're the same. I think a lot of business owners do. That's kind of what we're doing as a business owner. You know, we're creating something, we're excited to see how it's used. Like, there's no better feeling than seeing your product, you know, in action with someone who's bought it and they love it and it's changing their life in some way and it's making it better. So I think for most of us, there's so much, it's so rewarding to have a community. Like, every single day, I'm so grateful, but every single day there'll be a message, there'll be a picture of something that validates the work that I'm doing. And I'm like, awesome, someone's using this and they're changing their life for the better. And it gives you more energy to grow the business, because you believe in yourself more, you believe in what you're doing, and you have this kind of bigger purpose. So it's the best. Communities are the best.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our chat. I feel like we could have gone on all day, but do you want to just finish up by telling everyone where they can find out more about you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Jewellers Academy. Come and say hi. I hang out there every day because that's my life. 'Cause I don't have any other life. And we also have obviously a Facebook group, Jewellers Academy, and our website is jewellersacademy.com. So if you know any jewellers, send them that way. But also if you love running a business and you just want to come and say hi, I'm always happy to speak to business owners.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening in to today's episode. If you have a moment to rate and review the podcast in iTunes, it'd be so much appreciated. I read all of the reviews and I'm very, very grateful for each and every one. Why not pop over to Instagram, share where you're watching, tag me at Resilient Retail Club and let me know where you are listening to the podcast. I always love to see that. And let me know, what did you take away from today's episode? Are you going to start building a community around your business? Do you already have one? What advantages have you seen? And of course, if you hit the subscribe button, you'll be the first to know about each and every new episode. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.